Hi there, so I'm going to be making a lemon ricotta cake today, and this cake itself actually doesn't have any lemon in it, but there's a lovely lemon syrup that you pour over it while it's still warm, and that gives it a super lemony flavor. The cake itself, though, is made with almond meal or ground almonds, and it's also made with polenta, so that gives it a really nice texture. And then obviously, as it's a ricotta cake, there's ricotta cheese. So all of that combined gives it a really, really nice texture and absorbs the syrup very well. So it gives you a really lovely cake. So as you can see, I've got ground almonds, I've got my polenta, and I've got my ricotta. I also have some sugar, some baking powder, some eggs, 3 eggs. And I've also got 2 sticks of butter in my mixer, which I will move to show you in just a second. And then I also just wanted to show you the tin. This is a 9-inch springform tin that I've just greased and lined. Now, normally I don't leave the edges up this high. You don't need to do that. You can just line the bottom and the sides to the height of the tin. But I'm just going to leave it like that. It won't make any difference for baking. So that's my tin ready to go. Let me move the camera so you can see the mixer, and we'll get everything mixed up. So I've got my butter in my bowl, and I've also preheated my oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and my tin is already lined. So in my bowl I've got 2 sticks of butter, or 225 grams of butter, and I'm going to bring that up and just beat that for a second. And then to that I'm going to add my sugar, which is 1 cup or 225 grams of sugar. And then I'm going to beat that till light and fluffy. Alright, and then to that I'm going to add my 3 beaten eggs. Alright, then I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients. So I've got 1 cup or 250 grams of ricotta cheese. I've got my 1.5 cups or 150 grams of ground almonds. 100 grams or half a cup of polenta. So I'm just using the fine polenta. I don't want my cake to be too coarse. And then I just need 1 teaspoon of baking powder added to that as well. There we go. And then I'm going to mix all that up. I'm just going to scrape everything down just to make sure everything is nicely mixed. This, you want to make sure that this batter is well mixed. One more quick little mix. Okay, and that's my batter. So it's nice and thick batter. As you can see, it doesn't really fall off of the spatula very easily. And I'm just going to spoon that or pour that into my prepared 9-inch springform tin, and I'm going to put that into my 325 Fahrenheit degree oven, and it is going to cook for 1 hour to 1.5 hours. So I'm going to check after 1 hour and see how it's going. And then what you want to look for is a nice light golden brown color on the top of your cake, and that a toothpick inserted comes out clean. So while the cake is cooking, I'll come back and show you how to make the syrup, so that's ready to go when the cake comes out of the oven. Okay, so my cake is in the oven, and while it's in the oven, I'm going to do 2 things. 1, I need to get the syrup made, and 2, I'm going to make some little sugared curls to go on top of the cake too as a decoration. So all I'm going to do is I want to take the zest or the outside off of the lemons before I juice them. So I've just got a little lemon zester here. It's just got little holes along the top, and it's sharp along the edge here. It also has a single one on the side in case you wanted to do sort of thicker strips. So if I just show you the thicker strips, as you pull, if you pull it along the side like that, it makes nice, deep, thick sort of curls. or strips that you can curl around and do whatever. I kind of want this more flaky stuff, which is kind of like it'll be like a lemon, just a little lemon zest for the top. And so I'm going to use the flat side, and then I'm just going to pull straight down with quite a bit of force across my lemon, because I want to make sure that I get as long as I can. And I don't want to keep going around because that's quite difficult to get even ones. So again, I'm just going to press down and pull this and get my little curls. Just like that. So I've got a whole bunch of lemons here. About 7 lemons actually. I only need for the syrup juice from 3 of them. So I think I'm going to do maybe 3. I might do a 4th lemon with the zest, just so I've got lots of little strands here that I can use for the topping. So once you've got all your little strands, all you're going to do is toss those in some sugar. So probably about 1/8 of a cup to 1/4 cup of granulated white sugar. And that will just coat them in sugar, and it just makes them nice and sweet rather than quite bitter like you normally have from your lemons. So I'm just going to go ahead and do all of my lemons. Okay, so that's the zest from about 4 lemons. And so I'm just going to add that to some sugar. So that's about 1/8 of a cup of granulated sugar. And I'm just going to toss the strands in sugar. So you've got this lovely sugared lemon peel that will give you that lemony sort of flavor, plus the sweetness of the sugar, so they're not going to be too bitter or sour. So there we go. So I'm going to set that aside, and that'll be my topping. And then for the syrup, I also need some zest. But unlike the little topping strands that are nice and sort of stringy, I want my zest for my syrup to be quite fine, so that it doesn't, you know, get any one big sort of mouthful of that. So I'm just going to use a microplane on a fine grate, and I'm just going to grate this, just the outside. You're just taking off the yellow on the out. You don't want to go to the white, so you're just sort of grating and turning as you go. There we go. So that's the grated zest that I will use in the syrup. And then I also need the juice of 3 lemons. So I'm going to use this one that I've already zested, and I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm also going to use 2 of the other ones that are zested. You want to make sure you zest them before you juice them. Otherwise, once you've sort of crushed the outside to get the juice out, it's quite hard to get the zest off the outside. And I'm just going to use, I just use a handheld reamer, and I usually do this just like this. Ooh, move them out of the way. Just with a little sieve over a measuring cup or a bowl, and that just catches all of the seeds and any excess pulp. And so I sort of give them just a good squeeze and ream. And then I know I've got the maximum amount of lemon juice out of each of my lemons. So let me do that to my 3. So that leaves behind all your seeds and all your large bits of pulp, and then just leaves you with a nice lemon juice underneath. So let me get set up to actually make the syrup. We're going to do that on the stove, and let me get set up and I'll come back. Okay, so I've got my saucepan, and to that I'm going to add my sugar, which is 125 grams of sugar, or half a cup plus a tablespoon, trying not to pour most of it on the bottom. And then I'm also adding, so I had juice of 3 lemons, which was about 125 mils, and then I added 100 mils of water on top of that, and so I'm going to add that in, and that's to make our syrup. So I'm just going to put that on a medium-high heat, and I'm just going to bring it to a boil, and then boil it for 5 minutes or so until it's nice and syrupy, sort of a syrup consistency. And then I'll take it off the heat and stir in the lemon zest. And that's the simple syrup, or lemon syrup. It's not quite a simple syrup, but lemon syrup done. Okay, so it's just started to boil now, so I'm going to watch the clock and time it for about 5 minutes, and I'm just trying to get it to be a more syrupy consistency, and so just keep an eye on it. Okay, so that's been about 5 minutes of boiling, and as you can see, it's still quite liquidy, so I'm going to actually let that boil for maybe another minute or two. Okay, so it's been boiling for another couple of minutes, and I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm happy with that sort of consistency. It is still quite liquidy, but you do want to be able to pour it and have the cake absorb it, so you don't want it to be too thick or anything like that. So I'm just going to turn off the heat and pop in my lemon worth of lemon zest, and just swirl that around in there to mix it. And so I'm just going to leave that in the pan just like this until my cake's finished. So the cake has another about 9 minutes before it's been in there for an hour, at which point I will check to make sure that it's done, and if not, adjust the time. So this can just stay on the stove ready for when the cake comes out of the oven. So I'll come back once my cake comes out of the oven, and I'll show you how to add the syrup and what to do next. Okay, so the cake's out of the oven. It cooked for an hour and 20 minutes total in my oven, and as you can see, it's got a lovely golden brown color on the top, and if you just, I don't know if you can see that, it just sort of gently springs back. I put a toothpick in, came out clean, so I'm happy with that. Now, while the cake is nice and warm, I've just got my syrup here that we made before, and I'm just going to use a pastry brush and just gently brush it over the top of the cake, actually, and kind of half pour at the same time. I'm probably only going to use about half of the syrup, and I'm leaving this in the cake tin so that all of the lovely yummy syrup stays in the cake and gets absorbed back through the bottom if it's not gone in through the top. If you don't have a pastry brush, you can just pour it over the top. It's not a problem at all. This I just find is a little bit gentler and allows me to sort of distribute it a little bit easier than just pouring it all over the top of the cake. There we go. And that's got all the nice little bits of lemon zest in there as well. So you can try and get those sort of just spread out over the top a little bit. So now I'm going to leave it in the tin, and I'm going to let it cool all the way down to room temperature, so it's still very warm. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a very light lemon icing sugar glaze over the top of it, or just an icing, it's not quite a glaze. And then our candied lemon peel that we have as well. So once this is completely cooled to room temperature, I will come back and do the icing and the lemon peel on the top. Hi there, so I'm going to make a quick little lemon icing for the top of my lemon ricotta cake, and it's just a kind of a buttercream icing. So I've got 4 tablespoons, even though it looks like there's 5. There's 4 tablespoons of butter in there, softened, unsalted, and then I've juiced 1 lemon. So that's given me just slightly less than a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and I've also got 1½ cups of sifted icing sugar. So I'm just going to whip up my butter so it's light. Okay, so to my butter, I'm just going to add all of my icing sugar. If I can get it all out of the bowl. Okay, so the butter's a little bit incorporated into the icing sugar, and now I need to add my lemon juice. Now, I may not add all of this. I'm going to add a little bit at a time so that I can see what sort of consistency it is. I want to obviously be able to put this on top of the cake, so I don't want it to be too runny. So that was about 2, maybe 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. So far. There we go. So I'm happy with that consistency. It's just a light sort of, as you can kind of see that it leaves, if I just do that, it leaves little peaks on the top, so you can shape it if you want or just spread it over the top. And I've just made enough to cover the top, not the top and the sides, and not a lot. This is, you've got nice lemony cake already, and so this is just to add that extra sort of lemon zing to the top, and then we'll put the topping on as well, the little sugared lemon peels. So it's just to do a very lemon cake. So let me bring the cake back. We'll pop the icing and the garnish on the top. Okay, so here's the finished cake. And I've got my icing now. So I'm just going to actually dollop this right on the top in the middle. Pop that there. So that'll just give it a nice pillowy top. And I'm just going to use a little spatula, not even an offset one. You can just use a butter knife as well. And I'm just going to, from the center out, just doing little wavy swooshes like this. And I do have a turntable, which makes this a little bit easier because I'm not turning it on the counter. However, I'm just going to do this nice and easily. You can kind of make whatever sort of pattern you want in it. If you want, you can also put this into a piping bag and pipe it over the top of the cake if you wanted to do an even fancier version. If you want even more icing and more lemony for somebody who loves icing a lot, you can make a double batch of this recipe and smooth it all the way or pipe it all the way down the sides as well. I am just doing the top this time, right to the edge. And you can see if you do whatever you do with the pattern on the top, you can do whatever you want, really, like that. And so that is our cake with icing. And then we have our sugared lemon that we did as well, which I just have in a little bowl. And so I'm just going to place this carefully, sort of hanging a little bit over the edge, just a little bit around the edge of the cake. So there we go. That is our finished cake. It is a lovely lemon ricotta cake, and that has actually no lemon in the cake itself. So it's made with polenta and ground almonds or almond meal. We then put a lovely lemon syrup into the warm cake so that it can soak up all that lovely lemony flavor and keep the cake nice and moist. Put a quick, very easy lemon buttercream over the top just to add a little bit more lemon, and some lovely garnish of some zest of a lemon that we have sugared, just again to give it a little bit more flavor and sweetness and lemony goodness. So that is our finished lemon ricotta cake. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, please do give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to see what else I'm up to. Thanks for watching.